You may hear screaming baby in the background. Good. All right, we are here. We are live. Let's turn the recorder on. Awesome. And hey, how's it going? This is Brian Cain with the Coaching Matters Group Coaching Program, and super excited for today's call. And today's call, this episode, we're going to have Steve Wojciechowski. He's one of the most respected players in Duke basketball history. He was the 1998 NCAA Basketball Defensive Player of the Year. And he started his coaching career at Duke University in 1999 and helped the Blue Devils to the NCAA National Championships in men's college basketball in 2001 and 2010. He also was a part of the Team USA Olympic basketball program and had helped the red, white, and blue to 2 Olympic gold medals in both 2008 and in 2012. He was named the head basketball coach at Marquette University in 2014, where I had the privilege to get to know and work closely with Coach Steve Wojciechowski. And tonight on our Coaching Matters Group Coaching Program, Wojo is going to talk about kind of self-care in coaching and what we can do to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can be our best for those that we're trying to coach. So Wojo, looks like you got your mute button back on there. If you want to come in and join us here, man, we're ready to rock and roll.
What's up, BC? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Excited, thanks for being here.
Excited to join you. This has been fun. Like I'm in a unique time period in my life where, I got into coaching when I was 21. I was a very young coach at a really high level at Duke and spent the next 25 years doing it. And one of the things that I found is when you're on that hamster wheel, at least for me, I didn't reflect as much as I should have. So after having kind of a year doing a lot of different things, one of the things I did the most was reflect and take inventory of kind of where I was at, what I liked, what I didn't like, where I could get better, and excited to share those things this evening.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, Coach, and I appreciate you making time, and I first want to just welcome everyone to the Coaching Matters Group Coaching Program sponsored by Fundraising University. We'd like to take time to say thank you to any of the current Fundraising University coaches and administrators that are joining us on today's call and making this possible. And for the coaches on here, they know that Fundraising University is the top high school fundraising company in the United States, helping to raise over $150 million for programs since its inception in 2009. And, Coach Woj, on tonight's call, we've got some of the top high school coaches, high school athletic directors. We've got college coaches. We've got entrepreneurs. And I think the one thing that's consistent amongst everybody who's on the call is high performance pressure, high stress, high demands on themselves and from other people. And I think, in the pressure cooker of college basketball, you've gotten to experience that and are definitely going to have some strategies to be able to share with the people tonight in the Coaching Matters program to help them to really take care of themselves and be their best so that they can show up the best for those who they lead. So, I don't want to just kind of turn it over to you and have you share, some of those experiences that I'm confident are going to benefit the people who are here tonight.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think one of the things, as we share an evening together, I want to make clear, I by no stretch of the imagination do I have all the answers. I'm on my own individual journey, like many of you are, where we're trying to maximize our time on Earth, and in doing so. I've had a lot of incredible experientake personally, I've been around some of the best, whether it's in sports or business, and I've tried to pay close attention and learn from those people. So what I'd like to do is share a little bit about my own journey and also some of the things I learned from watching others do it at an elite level. Brian mentioned one of the things that I think leaders sometimes do not put as much focus as they should on, and certainly rings true with me, and that's self-care. You've heard the old sayings, whether it's you can't pour from an empty cup or whatever you've heard about that. those things, to me, in my experience, are really true. When I first got the job at Marquette in 2014, one of the guys who coached me in college and actually recruited me was Mike Bray at Notre Dame. And I remember, kind of taking a congratulations call from Coach Bray. And one of the things he said at the end of our conversation is, don't try to do all this today. And being young and arrogant, probably, I was like, I got this. And so one of the things I didn't focus on as much as my own energy, physical, emotional, spiritual, mental energy. And if you're a leader, and anyone in my estimation can be a leader, if you are a leader, it's going to be imperative that you lead yourself first. And, some of that is counterintuitive, right? Like you're supposed, as a leader, you're supposed to serve other people. You're supposed to give your gifts freely to the people who are counting on you as a means to guide them to their best version of themselves. And so it takes a lot of giving, and it's really constant. And it can be professionally, it can be as the leader of a family, it can be as a leader of a community. You're constantly giving. And if you're not taking time, one, to be clear about exactly where you are, what you want, and how you're going to get there, and to really map that out, and then make sure included in that are things that fill your tank. So when people go to your, gas station, there's gas left in the tank to give them. And for me, especially when I started out, it was like guns a-blazing. It was like the wild, wild west. Like, we're going guns a-blazing, and we're going to try to dominate everything in our path. And I tried to do that myself. And by the end of my time at Marquette, I was really depleted. And, again, at the end, when it was over, I could deal with that depletion. I wish I would have taken measures at the very start that would have served me in a more sustainable, long-term way. And, I think that's key.
Well,
I think, go ahead.
What were some of those measures that you would have taken if you could go back and do it again?
Well, I was organized. However, in college basketball, and it's probably like this in many industries, there are things that are going to happen during the day, and you can be prepared for those things. But there's always a curveball the next pitch down from the mound. And what ended up happening to me is that I would have been much more intentional and organized around my time and energy. And I wasn't. I gave both of those things away freely. And that was a mistake. Because at the times when I needed to be my best, whether it's mentally or emotionally as a leader, but even physically as well, I wasn't. Does that mean I was horrible? No, but it was, if you have awareness of what your best is, when you're not meeting it, even if other people don't. And so I would have been much more protective of my time and energy, and make sure that I was clear on the things that were priorities, the things I needed to do that could not wait another second and needed my time, attention, and mental energy, versus things that could have waited or could have fit into a more organized schedule and still worked out however they were going to work out. And I didn't do that.
So it sounds like being able to kind of reflect back, making sure you're investing in yourself, making sure you prioritize, make sure that you realize every time you're saying yes to something else as you're trying to grow a program, you're saying no to something else, right? Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And if that becomes your mental, emotional, physical health, that can have big tolls on you and your performance, whether other people recognize it, you recognize it. And I love that piece about, if you're operating, your awareness of what your best is the thing that's going to be paramount and be that driving. Woj, when you are at your best and you've been around some of the best, whether it was with the Olympics, whether it was at Duke with Coach K, you've been around the best now, working with doing some work in the NBA. When you are at your best, what are some of the things that you're doing that you now realize, the coaches that are on this call, if I could get them to do these things that have worked for Wojo, maybe they would work for them, and maybe it would help someone with their energy or with their career, or with their focus, with their health? What are some of the things specifically, whether it be a yoga practice or a meditation or journaling, or now you're a marathoner, things that you're doing that you feel like would help other people as well?
Yeah. For me, the first step in this last year was to get clear, to really come to a point of my own personal clarity around what was most important. And then intentionally scripting a day around those things. And then filling whatever time was left with, things that maybe sounded fun or I wanted to do or was interesting, but would not interfere with my priorities. And the four things in the last year I've really been focused on are family, friends, movement, and learning. And so for me, some of the practices that help me beyond the clarity, I've become huge into yoga. If you would have told me at 15 as a young, scrawny kid growing up in Baltimore that I would have a regular yoga practice and not only love it, but get to the point where I don't feel the same without it, I would have said you were crazy. But yoga for me has given me a chance to slow my mind down, to breathe, to set an intention, and to meditate, whatever word you want to use, meditate on that intention. And it's an hour a day for me. But when I talked about like self-care and things that fill your bucket, like that for me is it kills a number of things in one sitting. You have the mental, you have the physical, you have the breath, you have the presence. And the days I do yoga, everything else in my mind is better. And the days I don't feel as good. So that's been something that's been huge. Reading. One of the funny things, being around Coach K for 20 years, he would always say, he's not a reader. And of course, he read and he studied and he's brilliant, but he can sit down and read a book, is what he was saying. And so I don't know if it was by osmosis or what, I almost labeled myself like that. Like I don't have time for it. And, I've gotten back in to a reading practice. And it has many of the same qualities for me when I do it as the yoga does. And the third thing I do is I take a walk outside. And I do yoga. I read every day. I do yoga 5 or 6 days a week, and I'll take a walk with my dogs, 5 or 6 days a week. And again, these are not marathon walks or whatever, but I have guideposts within my day where my time slows down enough for me to ask myself, am I executing the things that I wanted to execute? And so it's been a very positive thing.
I love that. And I think one of the things, Coach, that we all can benefit from there, you're talking about, getting clear. I thought this was one of the best things we've heard said so far on our, almost 30 Coaching Matters episodes, was get clear and come to a point with your own clarity on what's most important. Right. So number one, for our listeners, number one, get clear on what's most important to you. And then two, intentionally script a day around those things and then fill in the time with what's left, right? Because creating a great day isn't going to happen by accident. It starts with the intention of what is it you want to do? And two, how are you going to get there? And then as a part of that day, Wojo, what I'm hearing you say is that you intentionally script in 4 things: family time, friends, movement, whether that be yoga, walking the dogs, and also learning, whether it be, time reading, maybe I know you listen to podcasts. Is there anything else that you feel like you're doing that is part of that ideal daily kind of routine that's allowing you to connect deeply with friends, family, maybe any other types of movement or any other learning that you're doing?
Yeah, I want to just put a disclaimer out there. When I said I want to focus on family, friends, movement, and learning, you have to be careful who your friends are, because they'll invite you to run a marathon with them. And after you agree to it, then they will throw in the fact it's 3 weeks away. And so all of a sudden, 3 weeks from the phone call, you're running in Tucson, Arizona, longer than you've run in 10 years.
Fine.
So you got to be careful of that. I just want to make that abundantly clear.
Well, while you brought that up though, Woj, let's talk about that for a second. Cause I think for a lot of people on the call looking at going from, man, I haven't done anything. Like I haven't run more than 3 miles. And now in 3 weeks, you're running a marathon. Like what spurred you to do that? And what did you learn from that process that you can share with people here? Cause I think there's a lot to take away from that.
Yeah. I think one, with the friends piece, I consider myself very fortunate to have a lot of friends. When I was coaching in basketball, the friendship, and again, it's not intentional on my part. It seemed to always happen on my terms. So my friends would come into town to support me to watch a game. And it was very hard for me to be present with them, to share with them. They were coming to watch a performance, and it was, thanks for coming. I'm on to the next thing. And so there was part of that I didn't feel good about. So one of the things when I said friends was I was going to intentionally do things with friends, or if a friend asked me to do something, I was going to say yes, unless it interfered with something I couldn't miss with my family. So you call and you say, Cainer calls and says, do you want to run a marathon? I was like, yeah, I do. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm getting back into shape. And then I say, when is it? And he goes, it's in 3 weeks. And I was like, holy moly. But for me, the negotiation of should I do it, this, that, I take the negotiation off the table. It wasn't like you're gonna be there for your friends if it meets these conditions. Like that was what I wanted to get away from.
Right.
I wanted to get away from that. And so it was like, yeah, like ask my wife, can I do this? And she's like, you can do it. You're not very smart for doing it, but yes, you can do it. And so I took the negotiation out of it, like, do it. I'm going. And then, the 3 weeks of training, look, anytime you're going to do something out of your comfort zone, and running, for me, running 94 feet for 2 hours straight is not out of my comfort zone. It's something I've done a lot. Running a marathon is way out of my comfort zone. For most of my competitive life, I will, and this may have been maybe a mistake. I was competing against others, right? And I had a group of people doing it with me when I was playing or coaching, but we were competing against this other group. One of the things I enjoyed about the marathon was I was competing against myself. Like, look, I was not set up to run a world record time. I did not go into the marathon thinking after 3 weeks of training, I'm going to win the marathon as a first-time marathoner. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and see what I was capable of. And the opportunity presented itself to do it with a friend, and I did it. And so, sometimes you have to just make your mind up, like, I'm going to do this. Mm. Mm. And again, and I'm all for plan, but like at some level, you have to take the option of not doing it off the table. Like it's not a matter of like if or maybe I will. Like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability on this day, and let's see where I'm at. And fortunately, I finished. Again, did not set any records. Maybe in like the 90 to 100 age bracket, I was probably in the top 200. But I felt great about it. And I would, one of the things that I wish I would have done is more, again, it doesn't have to be running, although it can be, like, do things where you're out of your comfort zone. I have a lot more time on my hands, and I ended up a lot of times when I was in a coach, the head coach or associate head coach, I ended up saying no to a lot, not because I wanted to, but because I basically made excuses like, I can't, that's not possible for me to do that. The times I got out of my comfort zone, talked to people in different areas of life, learned from them, I always came back refreshed and better for it. And so that's been I think a really important thing, and something I'll always keep in what I'm doing, because the time you think you're losing doesn't compare to the things that you will gain and then can eventually give.
Love that. And I want to come back here, Woj, and kind of maybe have you talk about like what you learned about yourself going through that, right? Like going, okay, I said yes to this, I'm going to do it, and you finished it. And then kind of what was the feeling like the next couple of days, right? Was there a, man, a feeling like, I can't believe I did that. I don't know, what else can I do? And in an increase in confidence, was there anything that kind of you gained from that experience that you would encourage other people to, as Jesse Itzler talks about, putting a masogi on your calendar, something that's so big that the rest of the other 364 days a year kind of have to align for you to do this on this one day, but that one day impacts the rest, So as you think about that, I just want to take a minute here and, again, would like to recognize Fundraising University and owner Mike Bahoon as the official sponsor for the Coaching Matters Group Coaching Podcast. And for our current coaches, if you'd like to be a Coaching Matters ambassador coach in your state and earn an extra $5,000 to $20,000 part-time, just contact Mike Bahoon, mbahoon@fundraisingu.net, or you can contact me directly, brian@briancain.com, to inquire about our new ambassador coach program. And for any coaches or business professionals that are looking to transition careers full-time, Fundraising University is hosting a transition program that we can, share information with you about how we can make that transition happen. So again, email mbahoon, BAHUN, @fundraisingu.net, or just hit me directly, brian@briancain.com. Also want to take a moment to just ask all the people that have joined us here to mute yourself if you would. And just mute everybody if you would, so that we're getting some feedback in the background. Coach Wojo, obviously, unmute yourself, but everyone else, if you would mute yourself, that'd be great. And then if you would, inside of our chat, any questions that you have for Coach Wojo, I like to make these Coaching Matters group coaching program opportunities as interactive as possible. So any questions you have, please feel free to drop them inside of our chat, and we'll get those asked to Coach. And Coach, coming back to you, biggest things that you've taken away from putting yourself out there, right, to run a marathon like that, to be able to, you could say, I would encourage other people to try this. Here's what it's done for me. Because I go back to the first marathon that I had done back when I was teaching high school, 2004 spring. And I didn't think I would ever finish that. And I finished it in like 6 hours. You smashed my time. But I looked back at it and said, I've gained a lot of confidence from that, going, if I put my mind to something, whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a business, whatever it is, I had that thing to draw on. And I still draw on that first marathon all the way back then, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think the biggest lesson that I took from that is you need to be really careful how you label yourself. Mm. And so for I'm sorry, can you still see me?
Good. Yeah, I don't know what this is here. Hang on a second. Beautiful. Somebody has hacked us. Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Good.
What I mean by that is prior to running the marathon, I would, and you've asked me, like, you want to go for a run? I'm not a runner, like I can do short sprints. I can put a ball through a hoop, but I don't like go out for runs. And that's how I labeled myself. And I think we do this in a lot of areas, right? I'm not a reader. I'm not a writer. I'm not a planner. All these things. And we basically speak these labels into existence, and for me, it was a great reminder to always challenge the things that you label yourself as. And because a lot of times, especially when they're, like labels that prohibit you from trying something that's healthy and good, need to be challenged. And I think I think that's what doing things out of your comfort zone provides you an opportunity to do. Like I said, I'm not a runner. I ran a marathon. I'm not a reader. I've read every day for, X number of months, 12 months now, 10 to 12 months now. It's like, that was a lie. What lies are you telling yourself? What are they? Because we all do. And a lot, and again, it doesn't make you bad. It just
holds you back.
It holds you back from doing things with people that would serve you in the moment and much longer than that. And so, for me, I've kind of challenged myself with that. Look, I've been involved in college basketball as a player or coach since 1994. This was my first year out of it. And it's, the amount of coaches that have reached out to me, like, are you doing okay? Like, it's like worried. I'm like, yeah, like I would have said 10 years ago, what am I going to do? It actually, what was a bad day for my ego has proven to be a great day for my soul, because it's allowed me to reconnect to things that I loved and that I was good at for a long time. Like when I was younger and trying to be, make the dreams that I had as being a college player and one of the best and all those things, I didn't label myself as anything. Everybody else did. He's short, he's white, he's slow, he doesn't shoot all that great. Like, I didn't put those, that was like everybody else. I just did the work. I did the work. And so the marathon was an incredible experience, and I'm glad I got to share it with you, and so thankful you asked. But for me, there was deep meaning in it outside of getting a gold medal that my sons thought was cool.
Yeah, I love that idea though about the labels, man. I mean, that's so much power there, and having a child on March 7th, our first child a couple of weeks ago, that's like I've always said, I don't cook, and now I'm making meals, and all those things, and now you're doing things like changing diapers, all the things that you never thought you would do, and you're doing it. And it comes down to your attitude, right? That you take. Like I always go back to the attitude you take is a decision you make. And we have to kind of check ourselves against that label we give ourselves, or check ourselves against that attitude that we carry about ourselves, or that we let other people put on us, and I think in a position of highly competitive athletics that you've been at under the microscope, for the entire time, the time you entered Duke until today, you've been under the microscope. Right. And there's a pressure that comes with that can challenge you and callous you in a way that sometimes maybe keeps us from getting into really identifying who we are, what we want, and then how do we structure our day around that. And Woj, one of the questions that just came in that I think ties right in with what we're talking about is this concept of journaling. And, do you journal, and are there any guidelines that you have to your journaling? Because one of the questions was, I'm having a hard time getting started journaling. Do you journal, or are there guidelines you have to kind of help get you started? And I know that's something that you and I have talked about, the importance of that. Look at that.
Got my my journal, that was not set. That question was not set up. So journaling, for me, it's challenging. And I'm still working at becoming good at it. I think a couple things. We talked about clarity earlier. My journal has allowed me to come back to the things that I want to really be intentional and focus on. It also has been a place where I can reflect on the good things that are happening. So it's an area where I can put down things I'm grateful for. And then it's like a hodgepodge, it's like business ideas, lessons I learned, podcasts I listen to, and I want to write down a phrase that stuck with me. So again, I don't know what the perfect journal thing is. But for me, there's power in writing things down, whether it's simply a schedule or a list of priorities that you want to make sure you want to touch that day or the following day, reminders of what to be grateful for, and then areas of growth. So it's been that's how I would use my journal. Again, but it's hard because it's like I don't carry this around with me, all the time. It's just not functional. But I also don't. Like writing down notes in my phone is more effective for me from a to-do list type of thing, as opposed to kind of pen to paper feelings, emotions, thoughts is more powerful for me to write down.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about kind of getting started with a journal and some of the stuff that I've learned and being a guy that struggled to keep a journal really until the pandemic started. I never really journaled, and then I was like, okay, well, now that I'm not traveling and I have this time and I have no excuses that I'm home, what are some things that I can start? And journaling was one of them. And for Chris, who asked the question, some simple things that I'll do is identify my most important task for the day. Like, what's the one thing that if I do today, I win the day. And Woj, I know you talked about win every day, and I'd love to hear you unpack that kind of as a motto and a mindset. But I feel like if I identify my MIT, my most important task for the day, it kind of helps me align my focus to get that thing done. The other thing I'll do is spend some time in gratitude and write down 3 wins. What were 3 things that were wins for the last 24 hours? I'll write down 3 gratitudes for the last 24 hours. So that emphasizes gratitudes and celebration of the things that are good in life. And then I'll kind of do a quick, what I call after action review, which is a start, stop, continue. So I'll say, okay, Brian, in the last 24 hours, based off of how you lived your life, now that you have the clarity, go back to something, Wojo, you shared of the clarity of what you want, and then do you align your day to allow that to happen? I'd look and say, okay, well, what do I got to start doing to get there? What do I got to stop doing to get there? And what am I doing while I want to continue? And for me recently, just full transparency, the start has been start scheduling more family time on your calendar. I schedule a lot of work time. I schedule time to work out, and the family time I schedule is the one that probably gets it's the one it's the one that gets squeezed, and the one I'm not consistent with the most. And I don't want to be that guy. So I'm going to fix that. Right. So the start is start executing on your family blocks. The stop is saying yes to everything. Stop allowing yourself to get pulled. And my continue is typically, for the longest time, has been continue to reflect. Because I think when you ask yourself the right questions and you reflect, you can kind of course correct like a GPS. And I feel like that's been a pretty good framework for me. One of the other questions that came in, Coach, was about like the concept of positive self-talk, and is that something that you use, like affirmations or statements that you might say to yourself, or, maybe a mindset that you might take, like a win every day, anything like that you feel like you use consistently, whether you were playing, coaching, or now?
Yeah. So for me, when I do yoga or I'm meditating, my intention each day are three words: peace, present, and process. And how I would define those pieces is when your heart and your mind are aligned. And I guess there's times when we're doing something where your heart may want it and your head may say that's a bad idea, or your head says this is what we should do and your heart says I have no desire to do that. So for me, I'm looking for things that engage both the mental and emotional. Present is, I want to be present. Like I struggled with that when I was a leader, is being in the moment as opposed to replaying the past or wondering about the future. And so like in my own personal journey, the biggest skill I could develop now is the ability to stay present. In coaching, I was oftentimes in conflict, and I think achievers, and Cain, you mentioned this with your family, right? So the conflict was a lot of times when I was with my family, my mind was on my players. And when I was with my players, my mind was on my family. And that's not right to anyone in that scenario. And so the ability to be aware that I need to be where my feet are is something that I think's of utmost importance in whatever's left of my journey. And then process, it kind of ties along with the theme at Marquette when I was the head coach there was win every day. And essentially it's basically doing everything you within your power on that day to win the day, whatever that looks like as a checklist. Let's say you're completely immersed in that. So when you put your head on the pillow, you felt like you've won the day and moved the needle in the areas the needle needed moving. And essentially it's just a process driven thing. And in the hard thing about that in coaching is if you're not motivated internally to embrace the process and all that comes along with that, good and bad, and stay completely present on that as opposed to the outcome, which in sport, because it's so public, arouses emotions in the people that follow you. So that's another area that I think I could have done a better job in and would make the things that I do more fulfilling and enriching. And I think as a result, better. So those are that's the peace, present, and process are the three things. When my hands go to my chest and they say, set your intention, you now know what I'm setting.
And Woj, you talked about the meditation, and a lot of the guests we've had with Coaching Matters, Zach Sorensen, who's the mental performance coach with the Atlanta Braves, Eric Bakich, who's the head baseball coach at the University of Michigan. They've talked about meditation. And I think for a lot of people that have never done yoga or have never done meditation or have never run a marathon, again, it's outside of their comfort zone. And They don't understand. They don't understand how beneficial it is. They don't understand how simple it can be because they've never done it. It's no different than grilling. Like I'm embarrassed to say that the first time I've turned on the grill at our house since I moved here in 2018 in Arizona, it's now 2022, was 2 weekends ago. It's the first time I turned on a grill. It's since 2018. And I try to stay in my lane. I try to stay in my coaching lane.
Yeah.
But what's, talk about your meditation practice and what does it look like? How often do you do it? How long? And like demystify and what's the word I'm looking for? Demystify and make just more normal for people like meditation. Like, how do you do it? How long is it? What's it look like?
Well, it depends on the day. I mean, it can be meditating before or after an hour yoga class or during, where that's a more substantial dedication of time. But when I feel like not present or, the monkey brain is working, right? And I think we probably all have it. It can be as simple as 5 deep breaths and returning to your intention or your mantra. Really, to me, and again, like I would have said 5 years ago, like, I can't meditate, like, I can't do that. But I think what it does by using your breath to control what's going on inside, because what's going on inside is a reflection of everything you're dealing with. To kind of to find my center, to breathe, and then to ask the right question, like, am I angry for a reason, and is that reason legitimate, or am I frustrated, or whatever it is, to be able to sit in silence with yourself, breathe, return to your center, and then figure out, with whatever you're going through, what your response should be. And so I think I've gotten better over time at responding to situations and not reacting to them.
Unpack
which
that
was
a little
hard
bit.
for me because I'm an emotional guy, that was part of my like brand or whatever. Was like, he's fiery, he's intense, he's emotional, all these lists of like emotional traits that, were seen as really positive. But at times added to the chaos that you don't need when you're trying to make decisions or trying to figure out like what you truly believe or what you want to do. And so I think meditation, I would encourage it for everyone. I think if I'm like most people out there, my perceptions of it based on like how it was delivered, the product was delivered to me, are not at all like what I've experienced in practice.
Yeah, it's so good. So much to unpack there, man. I mean, the concept between responding and reacting, right? Where I feel like a reaction is like an emotional response to a situation, right? Where responding is much more calculated. Like if you think about, the difference between humans and animals, right? And Pavlov proved this with when he would ring the bell and the dog's mouth would salivate, right? So there's a dog and there's a trigger, bell. Here comes the food. Response, the mouth salivates, right? So the difference between a dog and a human is it's trigger, response for the animal. For the human, it's trigger, pause, let me choose, response. And so many of us, we give away that pause because we don't create any clarity. We don't create any space. And it's trigger, response, trigger, response, trigger, response. I mean, just think about it. The last time your phone buzzed in your pocket, did you go, phone buzzed? Do I want to pull this out of my pocket and check and see who that is or what it is or where they want and then give them my attention? Or did you just go phone buzz? Bzz? That's because your pause is very short, right? And what you're talking about is lengthening that pause. And I think what meditation does is lengthen that pause, enhance that self-control, and better make you equipped to respond instead of react. When we're saying reaction is emotional, response is intentional. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. And so it's good. It's been a great practice for me. And that's, again, it's something, and again, I'm on a journey, I'm learning how to integrate that in my day-to-day life. But I don't know. Look, we're emotional beings. And to be able to hit the pause button before you react emotionally, you can take inventory of, like, do I really need to respond? If I feel like I need to respond, like, what is the best? It's served me very well.
Yeah. And it's in athletics, right? When you think about, I mean, I was with you guys a couple of years at Marquette, and just the pace of, you play a game, it's a sold out arena, you're watching film until 2:00 in the morning, you're back in watching at 8:00, and like, it doesn't stop, and when the schedule and the pace that we keep doesn't stop, it's hard to stop this when there's a pressure situation, and I got to think clearly. Right. So it kind of adds up. So with meditation, one of the questions that came into Woj was, do you listen to anything? Do you have any resources? And I'm assuming they're asking, like, do you use the Calm app, or do you use Headspace, or, do you listen to anything, or is it just you getting quiet by yourself?
I have tried those apps. I've tried Headspace. I've tried Calm. But I feel like I'm at a point, I don't need or want that anymore. Cause I tie a lot of the breathing and meditation into my yoga practice, and it's made, like, I'll get in a flow state in yoga. So and again, I don't have as much stress or pressure right now in my life, but, as things that come up that either, kind of raise your temperature or lower your I've still used the breathing. And again, I don't know if it's technically meditation. But use breathing to get back to a place where I feel like I'm in control, and I can respond accordingly to the things I can control.
So good. This concept, I think that one of the biggest things that I would like to teach through Coaching Matters, and it was a gift given to me by my mentor, Ken Ravizza, who I know you and Coach Ample had a chance to go sit down with in Chicago and get a chance to meet, which I think is awesome. I'm glad we were able to get that, and you got to meet him. But he would always say, you got to be in control of yourself before you can control your performance. You got very little control of what goes on around you, but total control of how you choose to respond to it. So don't give away that self-control, because you got to be in control of yourself before you can be in control of your performance, and Ken Ravizza had such an impact on my life, Woj. And I know you had an opportunity to play for and work with a legend in coaching, and Coach Wojciechowski. And one of the questions that came in from Brett was, what are some of the most important and significant, things or lessons you learned with Coach K?
Yeah, I mean, we could have done a whole hour on that in and of itself.
Probably should have, given the times. They're playing the Final Four, playing Carolina next week.
Yeah, it's hot news. I like, to me, three things that Coach does at an elite level, amongst a list of hundreds of things he does at an elite level. He's got an amazing ability and appetite to build and grow and sustain relationships. I first met Coach as a 17-year-old. And if there's a big moment in my life, whether it's, the peak of the mountain or the valley, he's one of the first people, if not the first person, I would call. And the thing that's incredible about Coach is that after coaching 5 decades of college basketball, many of my teammates, or the kids that I've coached, or the players that play for him now, would, in their own words, say the exact same thing. They know it's a real relationship where he's going to give you his best, and he's going to expect your best. And it's a pretty powerful thing to be a part of, in a very human way. Sometimes like, he's the GOAT, he's the greatest coach of all time. You can become numb to the fact that in the media, he's made out to be, he's a caricature, right? And you got to plant your flag on one side of the fence or another. Coach K's the best. He's never done anything wrong. Or Coach K's the worst, and everything good he does, it's done with bad intentions. It's like so crazy. But he's his humanness and his ability to share that with his players and the people around him on a daily basis is unique. The way he builds a relationship, and the second thing I would say about him, he's a master communicator. His ability to communicate what he wants, what he expects, what he believes, and have you embrace that and also share those same things from your perspective he's the best ever. He's the best ever. And again, his vehicle has been the game of college basketball. His communication skills would allow him to be elite in whatever road he decided to take. He just happened to take college basketball. And so his communication skills are elite. And then the thing that I think people, a lot is made out of his habits and routines from a heroic sense. Like Coach K, the stories that are coming up. Coach K stayed up all night with his staff to, take everything out of the locker room and put it at half court so his kids would know that he was upset with them. And, there's these stories are shared like with some sort of heroic backdrop. And look, those things happen. I mean, I was fortunate to be a part of it. But what he does day to day in terms of his routines and habits of excellence and his process, his consistency with it, unmatched. I'll give you an example. After every game at Duke, when I was a coach there, we would watch, as soon as the game was over, media was done with, recruits, players, the staff would get together and watch the tape essentially right away. And it didn't matter if the game was at noon and we got out at 9 p.m. or the game was at 9 p.m. and we got out at 3 a.m. Like, after the game, we were going to watch the tape, break it down, talk about what we saw, talk about who we saw doing what and why, and then come up with a plan of how to attack what we saw, good, bad, or not. And we would do this it didn't matter. And he still does it, to the point where it's like, it's a joke for the guys who coached with him, because it's like Saturday afternoon, we just won a national TV game at noon. Like, let's go to dinner. Yeah, dinner. We're going to order pizza and we're going to watch the tape. He had a routine on the recumbent bike where he'd watch tape, recumbent bike, go sit in the steam room for 20 minutes, come back, bike, tape, steam room. And he'd do these things religiously. And so, the stories of he was uber pissed and he locked the players out of the locker room, that makes for good theater. And again, there may be a time and place for that. The vast majorities of his days, and I was around him for 20 years, were executing the small things and at things that most people would say are boring. I won 1,200 games and I'm watching tape. We have the best players in the world and we're studying every game tape of Nigeria in the 2008 Olympics. We would beat Nigeria without doing that. It's his ability to attack his process, should be emulated in everyone's life. And when I was there, it's like, as you're going through it, it's like, you don't really recognize, you understand, like, this is different. And we're doing this because preparation, it's like, the more you sweat in preparation, the less you bleed in battle. Right. So I kind of understood it intellectually, but like, having had the chance to kind of step back and look, like, that was all process driven for him. That allowed him to arrive at a point where he felt like he was showing up for others as a 10. And in all of our positions, whether you're a college basketball coach, a mental performance coach, an entrepreneur, a teacher, the greatest gift you can give somebody is to show up as a 10. And these things that he executed while I was there were his ways of doing that. So those would be my lessons.
Yeah. Greatest things you can do. Like you're saying, right. And this kind of ties it all back into the concept of self-care and coaching. The greatest thing that you can do as a leader is to show up as a 10 for somebody else. I mean, show up as the best version of you. And in order to be the best version of you, Coach Wojo shared with us some strategies tonight, things that we're going to take away from meditation, having an intention around, for him, it was peace, present, and process. What is that for you? Creating a journaling practice where you do some reflection, spending time getting clear and coming to a point with that own personal clarity of what's most important for you, and then intentionally scripting your day around those things. And whether you identify those in the area of family, friends, movement, learning, your business, your team, what is it that you're trying to be intentional with, and realize that you can't pour from an empty cup. So you've got to invest in you. And I want to take time just to thank once again, Fundraising University and owner Mike Bahoon is the official sponsor for the Coaching Matters Group Coaching podcast and program, where we're investing back into you as a coach so that you can be the best version of you by applying strategies and lessons that we've learned from great coaches like Wojo here tonight. And current coaches, if you'd like to be a part of the Coaching Matters Ambassador program in your state and earn anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 part-time, either contact Mike Bahoon, MBAHUN at fundraisingu.net, or simply send me an email and I can connect you, Brian at briancain.com, to inquire about our new Coaching Matters Ambassador program, where you can help teams close the gap financially, helping them dream big and raise more. Wojo, I know it's a crazy time of year for you with everything going on in college basketball, man, and with the Dukies and coach's last run here through the Final Four. Hopefully they'll win that last game and cut down the nets. And man, I just wanted to thank you for taking time and jumping on here and sharing your experience and being transparent and being vulnerable and helping really grow the game and growing coaches here on Coaching Matters. Thanks for being with us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And let me know when you want to hit that next marathon. I'll give you 4 weeks notice next time.
No, I want 2 weeks.
That's right. I got to go the other direction.
I'm going to flip it on you.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip it on you, buddy.
Let me know.
Hey, you want to run a marathon? Great. I'll pick you up at 9.
Yeah. Just let me know if you don't. I just don't make me run and jump in a basketball, because you've seen me play hoops before and it's not pretty.
Well, I wouldn't do that to anyone. That's dangerous. I didn't said nothing about being dangerous.
That's right.
I said intentional.
Awesome. Woj, thanks for being with us. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you again. Our next Coaching Matters group coaching call is in 2 weeks. And we've got Dr. Rob Gilbert of Success Hotline. He's going to be on. Let me give you the exact date and time, because we had a little bit of an adjustment. Dr. Gilbert is teaching that night. It is Monday, April 11th. Heath Autry, one of our top high school baseball coaches in Corsicana, Texas, will be with us talking about creating a competitive edge, Monday, April 11th. And then on Monday, April 25th, we've got Rob Gilbert with Success Hotline. Again, head to briancain.com/coaching matters. You can see our list of upcoming coaches. You can also follow us on social media at Brian Cain Peak, and we'll make sure that we put it out as often as we can, so you know to join us here on Coaching Matters.